first problem owner actually hails from SICC, the Singapore International Chamber of Commerce. They are Singapore's longest serving independent voluntary business association for local and foreign-owned companies from all business sectors. Now, they do have a very, very interesting challenge. So from my understanding, they do have this form, this document called the ATA Carnet, which is an international customs document that allows companies to temporarily export their goods for exhibition. And their problem statement over here is how to digitalize the Carnet application process for a smarter and more efficient form filing process, not just to enhance this customer's experience, but also to reduce SICC's processing time over here. And we do have with us proudly the Chief Executive of Singapore International Chamber of Commerce. Let's welcome Mr. Victor Mills. Mr. Mills, please.
Cheng Hong, thank you very much. And
thank you.
Hello and welcome to everybody. Great to be back on the IMDA Open Innovation Platform. Let me just share my screen and just share a very short presentation about our particular problem. Okay, so the image on the screen really tells you what we want. We want to move away from manually completing documents to an e-application system to really improve the customer experience and more particularly also help my team with the processing of applications. So as Cheng Hong has very kindly introduced us, we are Singapore's longest serving independent business association, and we and our members have been helping businesses and Singapore succeed since 1837. And one of the certification services we provide to our customers is the ATA Carne. So let me just explain what ATA means first of all. It's an acronym. The first two letters AT stand for Admission Temporaire, which is French for temporary admissions. And yes, you've guessed it, the second two letters, T and A, is the English equivalent of the French, temporary admissions. The Carnet is another French word for a ticket or a pass. And in fact, the global marketing of the product, which is now valid in more than 70 countries, is the passport for goods. I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. But I want to say that the ATA Carne was developed by the International Chamber of Commerce, or ICC, in Paris. This organization is responsible for all the rules around trade documentation. And despite the similarity in our names, ICC and SICC, we are not the Singapore branch of ICC. We are an independent Singapore company. So why is the ATA Carne the passport for goods? Because it allows customers to temporarily export their various goods for exhibition, demonstration, or commercial sample purposes, but not, repeat, not for sale, into a participating country or countries, and they don't have to pay duty or taxes. And the only provision is, well, there are two. The goods cannot be sold and they must be re-exported back home, in this case, home to Singapore. So that's sort of the background. And I want to sort of move on and talk about the problem. The problem is that the Carne is a multi-form document, which at the moment has to be manually completed by every customer. So imagine they have to type sometimes the same information on multiple pages of this multi-form document. Sometimes they forget to do that, which slows down the processing of the application. But the long and the short of it is, it's a right pain for the customer. It's horrible. It's not a good experience. And what we want to do is find the right problem solver to help us move this multi-form document onto an e-application platform to help our customers and to help us reduce the processing time and just give the customers some help. So for example, auto prompts would be a great idea to help the customers realize that they need to complete XYZ box or boxes. It would be great if the information that needs to be repeated only needs to be keyed in once, which is what we mean by an intuitive solution. Because we're a not-for-profit business associations, this solution's got to be cost effective because we do not have millions of dollars to spend on it. So cost effectiveness is key. And last, but by no means least, the solution that you help us develop and build needs to be able to interface with the ICC Paris system for two reasons. One, they want the data. Currently, we submit the data by manual spreadsheets every month detailing how many Carne we issue and which countries are our customers traveling to. So that's one reason. The second reason ICC Paris wants the data is because it's their baby, their form, and they charge us, the issuer, a fee for each Carne. So they want to make sure that they collect all the fees that we owe them. So what's in it for you? And that's always a good question to ask, and I'm happy to answer it. Obviously, there's prize money, and that's always nice. Nice to get a bit of recognition, nice to get a bit of funding to help with the prototyping. You also will have an opportunity to co-innovate with my domain experts. I'm not the domain expert, but my team members are, and they're looking forward to working with you to develop the solution. We believe that there's a great opportunity to commercialize what you develop with us for other Carne issuers in the region. And the structure of the Carne system means that there is one authorized issuer per country. So there's a lot of countries in the region, all of which issue Carne, most of which do not have an e-solution. So there's a great opportunity there. And we would love to be able to share in the commercialization, since it's our domain knowledge that is helping you develop your intellectual property. But that's something we can discuss. Last, but in no way least, you'll also gain access to IMDA's not inconsiderable technology resources and their facilities to help with the prototyping if you need that. I am not going to go through the evaluation criteria because that's on the website and in the documents that you've already read. But what I do want to stress is the benefit of the IMDA OIP process for a problem owner like me is that it helps us make an informed decision. One of the greatest problems any company has is choosing from amongst a broad spectrum of problem solvers. And this is where IMDA really helps, because in addition to me and my IT manager and my domain expert evaluating each of your submissions, the experts in IMDA who do this all the time will also independently evaluate each submission. And in addition to that, IMDA's knowledge partners will also independently evaluate each submission. And then the three parties get together and we then arrive at a consensus of which solution is the best fit for us. So it's really terrific. The deadline is the 13th of May for all your submissions by 4 o'clock, 1600 hours Singapore time. Late submissions will not be entertained because IMDA is too busy, and so are we. And the reason we want to move ahead with this as quickly as possible is, first of all, we know it's not rocket science. Secondly, we want to move from prototype to solution to rollout no later than the 1st of November of this year, which is perfectly doable by any stretch of the imagination. So please remember 13th of May, 4 p.m. Singapore time. That concludes my brief presentation, and we now want to move to the most important part of the presentation, which is your questions. So please ask away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mills. And I think that was a rather succinct and very, very clear presentation. And the solution needed is very, very clear as well. Our tech solvers have been asking in the chat form. So we will just request that you put it in the Q&A form so that we can better direct it to the problem owner. Thank you very, very much. So maybe I can lead on with a first question, but we do encourage all our tech solvers to ask openly. As Mr. Mills mentioned, this is actually the most critical part of why Mr. Mills is even live with us over here. And that is to take your questions itself. So Mr. Mills, can I just represent the tech solver community, I guess, to start off the first question as to, I think the form filling part will not be a very, very big concern, but through interfacing with the ICC Paris system would probably be one of the biggest challenge that I foresee in this over here. So is there any idea on how they are actually interfacing with the system, or how we can interface? Because I do see here that it's probably through open data API. Is there any confirmation on that, or other means that we can interface with them? Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to say that it is open face, but I think it is. But let me just answer your question, Ching Hong, more properly by saying that we've got all the tech details from Paris, and we'll be very happy to pass those over to the problem solvers who are interested in this problem statement. Ditto will be able to provide the document in question, which is this multi-form document that needs to move from paper-based to e-platform or e-solution.
Sure, Mr. Mills, thank you for answering that. Yeah, and thank you for sharing. So, Mr. Mills, the first question coming out from our tech solvers over here is, may I know how does Sicc currently control the ATA Carne numbers to prevent duplicates or non-genuine copies? Is that actually by you, or was that actually by Paris? Yeah.
Oh, that is by us and by each issuer. So of course, right now it's a manual process. An application comes in, it gets allocated a specific number. That number is recorded on a spreadsheet, and that's how we keep track. So it's extremely manual, and that's one of the things we want to change.
For sure. Thank you very much for answering that. So the second question coming from our tech solvers over here is that, are the ATA Carne forms currently printed locally, or do they actually come from Paris itself?
Thank goodness they're printed locally. So that helps us keep the costs down. And yeah, it all happens in Singapore.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I think the next question is a little bit vague. Maybe you could ask, what do you mean by format for the proposal? Do you mean like .ppt or something like that? Maybe you could ask again in a clearer form, perhaps. Now, the next question that we're looking at is from application to successful approval. How long does it currently take on average for the ATA Carne forms?
Well, of course, that depends on a number of things, not the least of which is, have the customers completed the form, the application forms properly? And often there's a bit of toing and froing to get that done. But you're looking at probably 5 working days or thereabouts. We do, of course, offer urgent approval. And that is for customers who are very used to the product, use it very often. For example, people like the Singapore Symphony Orchestra, when they go on concert tours, they use the Carnet to move their musical instruments from one country to another. Or for another example would be luxury Swiss watch retailers who want to hold an exhibition of their $600,000 Swiss franc watches in Shanghai, China. They use the Carnet to avoid paying import duties and taxes. So really it depends, but we do have this urgent processing for our valued customers, and that means they apply and we get back to them within 24 hours.
Right. So it does depend on the queue itself and whether they're able to really expedite that. Now, I do see another question, and that is regarding the volume. So coming from Jeanette is asking about what's the rough estimated volume or number of transactions per month?
It varies. And of course, as you can imagine, with COVID in the last couple of years, the business has really reduced because so many borders have been closed. But we're already seeing a pickup in the business thanks to the fact that more countries' borders are now open. So I would say we probably issue somewhere in the range of, in a good year, just under 1,000 a year. In a less good year, a normal year, that is not a COVID year, we're probably looking at about 600. So the volume is not enormous, but believe you me, the hassle of completing the form is a real bugbear for customers and, of course, for my colleagues who process their applications.
For sure. We can understand that. And between multiple parties with the to and fro, definitely. And I think this question is pertaining, I believe, on whether they do need to interface with an existing system or could they build one from scratch, I believe, from David Chandra. He's saying that, thank you for the explanation. Do you actually need the user or applicant to fill into to log in to a particular system to fill in the Carne forms?
Well, I mean, it's the system that we're looking for our problem solvers to recommend and work with us to build. So at the moment, it's a manual process. We want to make it an e-application process. So we're looking for a solution that will move this paper-based form online.
All right. So in that sense, since it's a paper application, there's no logging in so as per se. Right. Cool.
That's right.
And yeah, cool. And next up on the budget, does Sicc have an indicative budget?
That's a cheeky question, but I understand why it's being asked. Well, I suppose the answer lies in the statement I made during my presentation. We're not for profit, so therefore we're very cost conscious. We have to be, and really it's up to the problem solvers to recommend a solution and put a cost to that solution. Right.
So problem solvers, feel free to recommend that. And if I recall correctly, Victor actually mentioned that this problem this solution can also apply to different countries while also having similar challenges with Carne forms. So potentially there's a wider area to commercialize.
You're absolutely right. We believe that there is significant commercial opportunities to take the solution that's developed for Singapore, and then with fairly minimal tweaking, for example, using different languages, then customize it for other Carne issuers in the region. That's right.
Right. So there's actually a potential for problem solvers to take it abroad as well, to become a regional solution as well. So
that's right.
There's this question on data access and management flow. So he's saying that user submits the form, someone validates the form and has permission notification system. Oh, I think he's talking about, is there a preferred way of data access and management? I do believe that this question might be a little bit tough to take online because there's seriously a lot of details.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of detail, and what I would prefer to do is to get the domain experts to answer that when we choose a problem solver. So I'd ask the problem solvers to keep in mind the fact that it should be an intuitive solution, and then we can build from there.
Right. Thank you very much. And I think that's all the time we have for our first problem over here. I do notice that there are a couple of different questions that are being asked. But as mentioned, Mr. Mills has said that he does actually have a team that might be better positioned to answer this with the different data that you can actually see in the brief once you log into the openinnovation.sg platform. So we'd like to thank Mr. Mills for your time, and we'll be posting all the questions into the forum to be discussed and answered as well. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Mills.
Thanks a lot, Ching Hong, and thank you everybody for your attention and your presence, and we look forward to your submission.